not sure I agree that we have to start banging the drum about sustainable livestock. It's about how can livestock be reintegrated much more into more sustainable agriculture. Thank you.
Point noted. Thank you, James. The lady in red, please. And then I'll take the last one, the gentleman there. He's very adamant. And then I'll have all of you respond. So prepare your responses to the questions being asked as your final remarks. Yes.
Thank you. My name is Lana Waikena. I was a youth vice chair for the UN Food System Summit in 2021, one of the 5. My question is to the organizers, as I'm guessing they're in the room, which is around 3 points. The first is why...
Give us one,
yes,
the key one.
Question.
Okay.
Just wondering why there was no balance in this event. Multiple times it has been referenced that there is criticism and that there is concern around the sustainability of livestock, around the emissions that come from livestock. So a number of the speakers are aware that there is a large amount of concern on that and that there is momentum on that end. And so if you want to have a discussion and to fully represent the views of stakeholders and internationally, then why was everything stacked in one favor? The second part is why Global North was not discussed. Global South was mentioned several times around the situations regionally for communities in the Global South, but why is there no discussion of what is happening in the Global North, as that can differ strongly in those situations?
Okay.
And then also a number of the speakers have mentioned that the sector is doing better, that the sector is improving, but where are the details? I haven't heard any of the speakers say exactly what they are doing, how they are improving. And so we're seeing no accountability in terms of these improvements that are mentioned, and just statements saying that livestock is important and that you must have these products, but we need to see the evidence. We need to see what action is happening, and also to bring in at least one speaker who can represent the other views that have been mentioned several times.
Okay, thank you. One last, yes, the gentleman in the back. That's it.
Thank you. Philip Limbury from Compassion in World Farming, a farm animal welfare organisation founded by a farmer, and I'm proud to live on a farm hamlet. And I'd like to support the last 2 speakers regarding accountability and positivity, and about the need to integrate the livestock sector with the wider agriculture. There's no doubt in my mind that when farmed animals are kept well and as part of the land on pasture-fed regenerative systems, they can be part of the solutions to some of the serious challenges now facing humanity: climate, biodiversity loss, nutritional security, and so on. I think where things have gone more questionably is when animals are taken out of the farm and into industrial agricultural systems, where they are separated from the rest of the farm scenario. So I would support the thesis that we should avoid looking at livestock as a segment, as a distinct segment, and actually look to integrate it and look to bring balance. We do need to recognize that the livestock sector contributes more greenhouse gases than all the world's transport put together. That is a fact. And that if we eat too much meat, which is the trend line, then our food alone will trigger catastrophic climate change. It doesn't have to be like that. If we reintegrate the animals, bring in more balance, and bring genuine sustainability to the agri-farm industry, which includes farmed animals kept in welfare-friendly, nature-friendly ways. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Phil. And I'm going to give it to my panel. And as you make your remarks, this will be your final round. Please think about it as your final round. If you don't have anything to say, it's okay. And I also want to let you know it's a 60-minute side event. We can't give a lot of detail in 60 minutes. I'm sure if you follow up with these people, they can give you all the accountability information that you need. James, I agree. Food systems are a very new concept, 2 years old now. We are working at it. We're moving the sector. We're moving into food systems lenses. But let me let the panelists speak, and I'll start with you, Ambassador Chaniak. Please keep it short, pointed, and if something is said, please don't repeat it. We've run out of time.
Okay, thank you very much. I will try to say three points. First one was that when I started my intervention, I expressed that I would have liked to have the same possibility to express, like my colleague expressed here, her criticism about this side event during the Food System Summit. Unfortunately, whatever we did in terms of trying to raise our position was absolutely impossible to be captured in the declaration, in the final declaration. And you know, it's interesting to see the tracks and to see who manage many of those tracks, NGOs with a particular ideological perspective. And this is something that it was very important to remember because I didn't receive this kind of criticism from your side at that moment at the Food System Summit. So this is one issue. The second issue is that we have this side event because we couldn't have the possibility to include in the agenda of this stock-taking moment livestock. We couldn't. If the stock-taking moment could have captured this issue to discuss in a balanced way, of course, we wouldn't need to have this side event in 1 hour to try to be and contain all our ideas and suggestions that, of course, it's impossible to include it in only 1 hour. So I would like to finish saying that in the subcommittee on livestock, that all regions and all members from every country are represented. And we have a MAPO and we discuss an agenda that all these issues that also you mentioned here are absolutely in the agenda. So we are discussing from a science-based approach, and we are trying to provide inputs to FAO in order that FAO can put in practice, because the subcommittee is not an implementation agency. It's only a structure to have conversations with private sector, with NGOs, with experts, and with the academia, and all these conversations are being transformed in inputs to FAO. Thank you very much.
Ambassador Cheniak, can I come here to Can I come to Ambassador Abielo? Please go on.
Yes, very quickly, James. The very first thing that I said was precisely that the steering committee that I chair on family farming takes into account livestock as well as fisheries and every single aspect of food production. So somehow that was encapsulated there, and I connect that with the so-called lady in red. I'm sorry I missed your name. We have been speaking about developing countries, of course, the global south, but in the steering committee, we are working very closely, again, with the issue of livestock as well as the traditional farming, fisheries, forest services, and so on, with the global north. The North Americans, Switzerland, Nordic countries, and so on are also participating. And but you make very good points that they might as well have been mentioned here. One last point is that, and that refers to the gentleman and all three, that is that this is the UN, and the UN is defined by the Charter. Article 1 says that it is an association of member states that are all sovereign and equal. And we need to take into account every single country. There are countries in the world, because of their size or their specificities, that do not take into account livestock in the same manner as others that are landlocked do not do marine fisheries. But the point is, as we heard from Kenya and Argentina and many others, this is something that we need to take up holistically. And we may all, I for one, oppose such barbaric things like bullfighting, and which I believe should be eliminated from everywhere. But when we talk about livestock and raising cattle and farming and taking fish out of the sea and other bodies of water, that is for food security. And food security is a global goal. So that's that. Thank you.
Mine is very brief. Luckily, in Africa, we don't have industrial systems, in Kenya specifically, so we are more on family farming. So we are still working on how to improve the agroecological systems to balance nature with the production. So that's where we are right now. What I also wanted to say is that we need to look at livestock. It has been put down for a long time, but the importance of livestock, as the director said, in terms of the nutrients, there are specific segments in our countries that really require livestock nutrients. And for us, it's a food security issue, and I'm very happy with this event, that it's highlighting issues about livestock, because then we can bring in the balance between those who are talking about crops being the only sole source of nutrients, and how we can balance it with livestock, or livestock products, which are very critical for our health systems.
Thank you, Bernard. I'll take you to Josiane. Do you have something to say?
Thank you. As Bernard has said, livestock it's the importance of livestock is different in different countries. So in our developing countries, like especially for me, Rwanda, we are a landlocked country. Livestock is very essential in terms of providing nutrients and also in terms of providing fertilizers for our farmers and boosting the economy of our country. So it's a priority.
Thank you, Josie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
The question. For example, to give us some data, in the last 10 years, the dairy sector reduced the emission intensity of greenhouse gases by 11%, from 2.8 to 2.5 kilograms of CO2 per liter of milk. There is a special publication made by FAO, Climate Change and the global dairy cattle sector, but there are some others about meat, about livestock. But I want to underline that the IPCC suggests that the right solution to fight climate change and to reduce hunger and to guarantee enough food for the increasing population is the sustainable intensification of agriculture. So we need to produce more for the area used to reduce also deforestation.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Tanawalt, please.
Thank you very much. Being let's say, as we are a human being, we know that we need healthy food, clean water, and clean air. This one is a basic need. And when you're talking about the way that you consume, the consumption patterns, it depends on how you eat, what you eat, and how much you eat.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
When you talk
May
about
I
the
ask
global
you to
south and
kindly
global
find
north,
a seat if you
when
haven't
you're talking
already.
about food,
We're about to start with the
you're
food
talking
systems
about
for shared
accessibility,
prosperity, achieving
affordability,
equitable,
and
inclusive, and
availability.
sustainable economic prosperity
Because
in
if you are
agri-food
here in
systems
Rome,
and rural development.
you can get everything what you want. But if you go to Mali, if you go to Bhutan, then I have to walk from one village to another village, spend half day. In Nepal, only rain-fed rice that they can have just only 1 year only. And that's why we need to be aware of all the issues around food system, including livestock is a part of food system and agri-food system. We need to talk about balancings and rebalancings to make sure that we need to be realistic. As my colleagues from Africa mentioned, still many farmers rely on livestock. But maybe in the other regions that are talking about how to reduce consumption, reduce the number of livestock, or even though whatever you want to reduce. It depends on your priorities. It depends on your needs. And we respect your decisions because the need and priorities of each country is different. And that's why we are sure that when we discuss the issue around sustainable livestock transformation at the global conference, we will bring solution. We will bring good practices that we can share our practices together, how we can do better, how we can produce more with less impact, how we're going to make sure that we can inform policymakers, consumers, and public that We are producing with accountability and responsibility.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I really want to commend the president of the Wild Farmers Organization. He sat next to me quietly, waiting to give us the punch as his closing remarks. He has heard it all. This has been a wonderful forum. I would like you to give us our closing remarks as you also reflect on what you've heard. Thank you, Mr. Arnold.
Thank you, Mrs. Moderator. Thank you for the job you have made. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I want to underline that I hear always the voice of the activist. All the farmers hear the voice of the activist everywhere in the world. When I say the activist, we are also activists. You are activists. We hear all this voice and we try to change our way of producing, to produce more with less. But be aware that less than 1 century ago, less than 2 billion people were on this land. We are 4 times more. And livestock have been a big solution to feed all these people. You know, the year where the wheat is not good, where do we use the wheat? We can't make bread. We feed the chicken with that. Where in the industry we transform all the vegetables and we have some lost because some products are not good. We feed the pigs with that. And so. How do we feed the cow? We feed the cow mainly with the grass. And where is produced the grass? On land who is not arable. You can't seed grain, you can't produce vegetable, you have just grass. And grass, the only animal we are able to transform is goat, sheep, and cow, and horses. But really, it's the real life. It's what we do. And everywhere in the world, we are aware of the sensibility of some of the citizens, and we try to answer to that. But at the same time, we are facing the climate change. And livestock, it's also part of the solution. When you have a climate who are changing so suddenly, it's more and more difficult sometimes to be a vegetable producer or a cereal producer. And livestock can be the solution because the rain is coming some year, some other year are not coming. And the only animal who are able to, you're able to feed with the hay, it's this animal, and it's produced on grass. What can we do with all this grass? Even you use it on your, like this. You can't make a good cigar with grass. It's only the cow who can give value to that. I want to underline that. But really, the livestock is part of the circular economy. You know, on our farm, most of the farmers, they have circular economy. If we have developed organic products everywhere in the world, it's because we have all the manure produced by all these animals who are able to feed the land where we produce the vegetables and so and so. And I want to finish by the importance of the carbon and the biodiversity. The two main things of carbon and biodiversity is the pastures. And the pastures is the place where you have the animals. If you have no animals, you have no reason to have pasture, and nobody will take care of that.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you to the participants. Keep pushing us, keep challenging us. This is it's not easy. Thank you to my panelists, my honorable panelists. Thank you so much for your time. To the organizer, to the translators and interpreters. Thank you, everyone, and have a good afternoon.
Recording stopped.